This Saturday's Michigan-Ohio State game will be like no other, and there are going to be a ton of eyes on this game, and some of the most important people in attendance are the recruits. We're going to break down Michigan-Ohio State from a recruiting perspective. Will Bryce Underwood be at the game? Find out if Michigan's recruiting class can hold up with all the drama surrounding the program right now. But first, Michigan fans, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We're trying to grow this thing almost 25K. We need you to be a part of it. Hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on Zach Libby from the Wolverine. And Zach, before we get into some of these big names on campus this weekend, last week, Michigan fired linebackers coach Chris Partridge, and it was rather abrupt. What was the recruiting reaction to that, both from targets and commitments?
Yeah, abrupt's a good way to put it. I think the reactions of commits who had a really good relationship with Partridge and, their commitments was a big reason because of their relationship with him. I think their reactions were abrupt too, and same goes for the targets. We quickly spoken to people who are close to those commitments. We even gotten reactions from the commits themselves. But I think no one's doing anything abrupt in terms of actions. Like no one has decommitted yet. No one has taken visits elsewhere. Other coaches were deeply involved in their recruitments just as much as Partridge was. So, communication hasn't stopped. Obviously, those other coaches quickly got on the phone and communicated with those commits in question. So, I think the feeling is that, you just want to see what happens next, specifically with who they're going to hire. I actually spoken to one of the commits on Saturday, Jeremiah Beasley, 4-star out of Belleville, who said, I guess the plan that the coaches told him was that they're going to bring in someone who's going to connect out well with all the future linebackers. And that's what they want, right? Like someone who can give them that development on and off the field. But with Partridge, obviously he did a really good job in, his second stint with the Wolverines. When you're concerning targets, top 100 guys like Noah McHale out of California or top 100 linebacker from Central Florida, Elijah Melendez, who's visiting for the Ohio State game. Like there's a really key crop of linebackers next cycle, and it's a very deep position for 25. So whoever it is, obviously they got to mend those relationships from before, find his own targets that he likes, and then obviously keep the commits that Partridge was responsible for in the 2024 recruiting class. So right now, we'll see what happens.
All right, let's fast forward to the weekend. Big names at the big house. Here we go. Some huge 2025 prospects on campus. Offensive lineman David Sanders out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Safety DJ Pickett out of Zephyr Hills, Florida. Trey McNutt out of the Cleveland area. All top 100 prospects or higher. And they're going to be at the big house on Saturday. So let's start with David Sanders, the big offensive tackle from Charlotte, North Carolina. Not his first time on campus. Michigan's doing pretty well in this recruitment, huh?
Yep, for the number 3 overall offensive tackle, number 3 overall prospect in the country, number 1 offensive tackle. Just a freak athlete, one of the premier positional players for next cycle on that line. Michigan brought him in for the first time in late July for the annual barbecue at the Big House. Michigan was actually the first school to ever offer Sanders, with offensive line coach Sherrone Moore, building a strong relationship with him and his family. Obviously, Michigan has had a ton of success at the offensive line position, with back-to-back Joe Moore awards, something that's deeply impressed Sanders. There's a lot of connections, too, with the Michigan program for Sanders, who hails from Charlotte Providence Day, one of the powerhouses down there. But Michigan already has 2 commits in Sanders' teammates and 4-star quarterback Jaden Davis and then wide receiver Channing Goodwin. In fact, too, Michigan's a former Michigan offensive lineman, Jonathan Goodwin, who's the father of Channing, is the offensive line coach at Providence Day. So there's a lot that that can be sold on the field and just connections wise for Michigan. Obviously, Bama, Georgia, Clemson are just heavily in the mix as well. For a kid of his stature and a kid of his talent, obviously he's going to command a lot of NIL. So that's going to we'll see how big of a factor that becomes. But having him come back twice in a year is huge, and we'll see if Michigan can land this marquee athlete.
Absolutely. There's some big ties there to one of the top offensive linemen in the country. And then also, let's take a look at DJ Pickett. He's a 5-star out of Zephyr Hills, Florida. And there's some connections there too, Zach.
Yeah, so this is a kid whose mother actually attended Michigan, and he has family connections in throughout Southeast Michigan. This upcoming weekend will be his fourth total visit to
Oh,
Michigan.
wow.
He was there over the summer, where he got to be with the coaching staff, Jim Harbaugh, defensive backs coach Steve Klingscale. But he has taken in that game day experience before. He was there last year for the Penn State game. He was planned to be there actually on campus earlier in September for the Rutgers game, but changed of plans. So now he's going to go see the game against the Buckeyes. But yeah, as mentioned before, with Steve Klingsdale, he's leading the way. He's making a really big impression on the entire family. Pickett has a really good relationship too, and really close friendship with 2025 on 300 cornerback commit Chris Ewald, who committed to Michigan this past December. And I know they've talked about potentially playing together, but all those reasons combined, there's a argument that Michigan is obviously in the top schools for him with Georgia, Oregon, all the Florida schools. So like with Sanders, he's going to command NIL, but he hasn't really mentioned that it's going to be a big factor. But
Hmm.
with a summer decision coming up, Michigan can play the long game with him and bring him in a couple more times to finalize, coming up on top.
All right, now we move on to Trey McNutt. Now he has ties, except they're to the Ohio State program. So why is Michigan bringing him in? Do they have a kind of a foot in the door with McNutt?
Yeah, so obviously Michigan has made a big effort these past few cycles to recruit the state of Ohio.
Hmm.
In 2023 and 2024 combined, 8 commits from Ohio who are native to Ohio have committed to Michigan. And that includes top 100 running back Jordan Marshall, who Ohio State was pushing for as well. But 2025 is shaping up to be another classic Michigan-Ohio State battle on the trail, with Trey McNutt being one of those featured players. This will be his second visit to Michigan. He did take one in late May, where he got to be with Steve Klingsdale, who is native to Youngstown. Now, Youngstown's not too far from Cleveland, but that connection is doing wonders. And not only that, Klingsdale has known Trey McNutt's family for years. Now, McNutt's father is a longtime defensive backs coach at the collegiate level, played college football himself. So Klingsdale is considered to be family of sorts, after speaking with McNutt earlier this fall. But, like you mentioned, a lot of really deep Ohio State ties. McNutt's father played on the 2002 national championship team. So did his uncle. But what's really interesting about this recruitment is that he has said that he's kind of enjoyed seeing his own path. He's known his entire life about the Buckeyes, but going to different schools like Tennessee and Notre Dame and Michigan have kind of opened his eyes of what's available, outside of Columbus. So we'll see how open he is. It's going to be a tough battle to beat out Ohio State. Obviously, they have the huge advantage, but it's going to be an interesting one heading into the offseason.
Yeah, but hey, you invited him to the game, so go out, beat Ohio State on your home field, and his recruitment maybe becomes a lot easier. You never know. One name that I didn't see on our list of 2025 recruits in the big house was the number one quarterback, number one overall in the class, Bryce Underwood. Will he be on campus on Saturday?
It's not confirmed or set that he is set to be on campus. However, Michigan is working to get him for a game day visit, which would be the first time this season that he's done so.
Right.
And it would be a return from his late July back-to-back visits.
Right.
But yeah, Michigan has yet to bring him in with this fall with about 50 days left until he's announces his commitment on January 6th. But, obviously we know that Michigan just landed a quarterback commitment from Carter Smith out of Fort Myers, ranked in the on 300. But Michigan has yet to wave the white flag on Bryce Underwood. LSU is getting a ton of momentum these past couple of weeks for the number one overall player in the 2025 recruiting class. But being that he lives 30 minutes away and quarterbacks coach Kirk Campbell has done an excellent job of building a rapport with not only the 6'3", 215-pounder, but his entire family. The goal would be to get him in for that game. If worst case scenario, you work towards getting him in for a December visit before that dead period begins on the 18th of December.
All right. Well, as if all eyes weren't already on the sidelines in Ann Arbor this weekend, they're going to be checking to see if Bryce Underwood shows up. Huge list of visits. You can, guys, go check out the Wolverine.com. They have all the visits lined up. It's pretty insane. Zach, Libby, thanks for stopping by the Inside Scoop today.
Appreciate it, Josh. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.